Ireland and the mute swan. Their histories are intertwined, and they're intertwined within our mythology. It is debated whether they're native to Ireland or not, but at this stage, they're in the recorded history. It goes all the way back to the Norman invasions. Before, even with the Romans, there's a recorded history of them. I don't think it really matters at this stage. Their history, as I said, has been intertwined with ours for centuries. And one of the most famous stories that I can remember being told as a child was the story of the children of Lear. So sit back and I'll tell you this ancient story of Ireland. One such tale is the story of the children of Lear, most often associated with the remote hilly terrain of northern County Mayo, where the children were destined to spend over 300 years. Today, in the remote wilds of Carrigtwoe in North Mayo, there is even a sculpture dedicated to the children of Lear. Condemned to the wilds of Mayo for over 300 years and unable to return home, it is fate that has resonated with many thousands of people forced into migration from their homes in Mayo to their new lives in America, Canada, Australia, England, never to return. As the great story goes, a great lord called Lear, who when passed over to be new king, was angered and refused to swear allegiance. Though off to a rocky start, as a gesture of peace, the new king offered his own daughter to Lear. His daughter Eve, his hand in marriage, and thus ending the feud. Eve and Lear went on to live a happy domestic life, resulting in 4 children: their daughter Fionnuala and their 3 sons, A and the twins Fiachra and Con, though Eve unfortunately died after the last of her children were born. At the behest of the new king, Lear remarried again to another one of the king's daughters. What possibly could go wrong with that? As a result of the beautiful but increasingly bitter Eve, stepmothers get a bad reputation in fairy tales and folklore stories, and right on cue, it wasn't long until Eve became jealous of Lear's love of his children. He doted on them, playing the role of both mother and father and leaving little room for the household and for Eve. Feeling shut out and unrequited, Eve grew more and more bitter and eventually jealous of Lear's love and attention for his children to her disadvantage. Eve had some knowledge of magic and far too much jealousy in her veins. After failing to gain any help from her entourage or her subjects in this deadly task, she gritted her teeth to resolve and kill the children of Lear herself. Calling the 4 children to her, she proposed to drive out to the shore of the lake, but try as she might, she could not bring herself to slay them. So instead, she proposed to swim in the lake, and once the children of Lear went into the water, she called upon all her magic to cast a spell over them. In place of the 4 beautiful children and beloved, once so full of life and spirit, they were now 4 feathery swans bobbing on the lake. Aoife had set a time limit for her spell, and chose the time limit was thus the children of Lear were doomed to spend 300 years as swans on the glittering shores. Derrybara in County Westmeath, a second 300 years on the rough and harsh sea of Moyle in the North Channel, separating Scotland from Ireland, and a final 300 years on the wee rocky island of Innisglora in Mayo. Relenting a little, Aoife allowed the children of Lear to retain the powers of speech, reason, and dignity. When Aoife showed up in the king's court alone, without the 4 children, the king became suspicious, and soon both he and Lear suspected that Aoife had done something very bad. It wasn't until Lear came upon the shores of Loch Derrybara that he heard the 4 swans singing in human voice, that he recognised his children and understood what the jealous bride had done. When Lear shared what happened to the king, he grew angry with his daughter. As a punishment, he cursed her to what they had managed the worst shape could be, a demon of the air, and in this state she remained. And so 300 years came and went, and they were still swans, unable to leave each location until a 300-year-long spell was ended. The children of Lear were unable to return home to live with their father and family. Instead, generations came to hear the beautiful songs before the swans' stay in Loch Derribar was over. The song of the swans was said to be magical, able to make even happy people even more blissful, able to remove pain and from illness and sorrow, and peace fill the lands. 300 years has ended, and it was time for them to go to the Straits of Moyle, otherwise known as the North Channel, where they were colder and harsher, and violent storms would separate the children of Lear from one another, freeze their feathers and drench their spirit. So 300 years of miserable life continued and went. The swans' final 300 years were spent on the water surrounding the island of Innisglora, County Mayo, on Ireland's wild Atlantic Way. This is where the tendrils of Christianity took hold of the traditional tale, making itself present. Once again, the cold and miserable swans started praying to God to protect them. Their prayers were answered, and the remaining years as swans on Innisglora were good ones, and so 300 years came and went. Free from the curse to remain connected to the specific body of water, the swans returned home to their father Lear. They were certain to find the former home forlorn and deserted. The swans retreated back to the beautiful island of Innisglora, off the coast of County Mayo. It was here that they heard the ringing of the church bell, and suddenly they were struck with the knowledge that the bell would remove their 900-year-long curse. A monk, sometimes called Patrick himself in some versions, heard their singing and knew they were the children of Lear. Despite their relative happiness and liberty in the company of the monk, the swans had not regained their human form. The king of Connacht wanted their magical swans for himself, and thus came in search of the swans, but upon his touch they were transformed into 3 old men and women. Now aged children of Lear, upon transformation, were close to death, and they requested to be baptized before they died. And this is a story of the children of Lear. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the type of video, please let me know in the comments. And what I'll do is I'll do more on this subjects and other myths and legends from Ireland and other places. See you soon.